The Chicken Encyclopedia, page 48. Campine, a breed developed in the northeastern part of Belgium, known as Campine or Campine. It has tight feathering and a single comb, and the hen's comb flops to one side. Both the large and Bantam versions come in two color varieties: golden, rich golden head and neck feathers, with black and gold bearing in the body feathers, and silver, the same pattern in white instead of gold. The cocks have a modified form of hen feathering. Their color pattern is identical to that of the hens, and their sex feathers are not as long and pointed as those of other breeds. The hens are good layers of white shell eggs and seldom brood. Campylobacter, one of several species of bacteria of the genus Campylobacter. The species most likely to affect chickens as well as humans is C. jejuni. These bacteria colonize the intestines of chickens and other poultry and are spread through infectious droppings in feed and water. Although some strains of C. jejuni cause enteritis and death in newly hatched chicks, the bacterium is generally non-pathogenic in mature poultry. Campylobacteriosis, an intestinal disease caused by Campylobacter that infects a wide range of animals, including humans and chickens. C. jejuni in particular causes this diarrheal illness in humans who eat undercooked infected poultry, primarily from commercial broiler flocks. Here is a picture of a Campine rooster. I think this is the one my grandpa had. Has a white head, big old red comb, and white and black streaks, kind of like a zebra, almost like a zebra or something. And here's a picture of a Campine hen. Golden head, big old red comb, and golden black type zebra patterns. No boots on these ones. Page 49. Candle. To shine a light into an intact egg, to examine its contents through the shell and determine its interior quality for eating, or embryo development for hatching. Originally done with a candle, poultry supply outlets offer a handheld light designed for the purpose, but a small, bright flashlight works just as well. White shells are easier to see through than colored shells, and plain shells are easier to see through than speckled shells. In a darkened room, grasp an egg at the smaller end between your thumb and first two fingers. With the egg at a slant, hold the large end to the light. When candling a fresh egg for eating, turn your wrist to give the egg a quick twist, sending the contents spinning. The albumin of a fresh egg thins as the egg ages. If the yolk looks vague and fuzzy, the thick white albumin surrounding it is holding it properly centered within the shell. If the yolk is clearly visible, the albumin has thinned, allowing the yolk to move closer to the shell. Candling to measure the air cell also gives you an idea of an egg's freshness. The cell of a freshly laid cool egg is no more than 1/8 inch, 0.3 centimeters deep. Above that, the larger cell, the older egg. Just how fast the airspace grows depends on the porosity of the shell and on the egg storage temperature and humidity. See also air cell. Candling is also used to monitor the progress of hatching eggs. So those that are spoiled or non-developing may be removed from the incubator. See also embryo. Here's a picture of candling. So you have the flashlight to the left, you have the egg in between your grasp, and you have it turned at a 45-degree angle. And it's exposing kind of the inside, kind of like a radiography. Candling incubated eggs. After 1 week of incubation, candling reveals one of three things: nothing, or a vague yolk shadow. Either the egg is infertile or the embryo has died. See infertility. A thin ring within the egg or around the short circumference. The embryo has died. See fertility. And weak. A web of vessels surrounding a dark spot. The embryo is developing properly. See embryo. After 2 weeks of incubation, removing any infertile eggs or ones with blood rings, candling reveals one of two things: murky or muddled contents that move freely and/or a jagged edged air cell. The embryo has died. See embryo death. A dark shadow except in the air cell at the large end, perhaps movement against the air cell membrane. The embryo is developing. Page 50. Candler. A light used for candling eggs. A person who candles eggs. Canker. A disease caused by Trichomonas gallinae protozoan parasites that primarily affect the mouth, throat, and crop. It is characterized by cheesy accumulations in the throat, usually accompanied by weight loss. It is more prevalent among domestic pigeons, but spreads to chickens by means of stagnant drinking water or feed contaminated with discharge from an infected bird's mouth. Prevention involves good sanitation and avoiding birds that may be carriers. This illness does not affect humans and is not the same as trichomoniasis in humans, also called root trichomoniasis. Cankers. Soft, whitish, cheese-like bumps that erupt to form sores, usually on the face or in the mouth. Cannibalism. The nastiest habit chickens have of eating each other's flesh, feathers, or eggs. Most cannibalism occurs at one of two specific periods in a chicken's life: as a chick when it gets its first feathers, and as a pullet when it is beginning to lay. Cannibalistic picking is different from peck order fighting to establish dominance, although frequent fighting to adjust the pecking order may lead to bloody injuries, which can in turn lead to picking and cannibalism. Stressful situations that can cause irritability and cannibalistic picking include overcrowding, boredom, lack of exercise, bright lights, excessive heat without proper ventilation, too little perching space, too few feeding or watering stations, feeders or drinkers being placed too close together, nutritional imbalance, external parasites, and insufficient opportunities to engage in the natural activities of scratching and pecking the ground. Once picking starts, it can be difficult to control. First, separate chickens that have been picked to the point of having bare patches or bloody wounds. Since these picked areas invite more picking, then identify and remove the instigators. Forms of cannibalism. Form: toe picking. The likely group: chicks. Form: tail pulling. Likely group: growing birds. Form: feather picking. Likely group: growing birds. Form: vent picking. Likely group: pullets. Form: head picking. Likely group: cocks and any birds in adjoining cages. And form: egg eating. The likely group are hens. Page 51. Switch to red lights that make blood more difficult to see, or change bright lights to dim lights. In hot weather, open windows or turn on a fan to stir the air and reduce the temperature. Since salt deficiency can cause chickens to crave blood and feathers, add 1 tablespoon of salt per gallon of water in the drinking for 1 morning, then repeat the salt treatment 3 days later. At all other times, provide plenty of fresh, unsalted water. Young birds raised on wire are more likely to become cannibalistic than those raised on litter, perhaps picking at each other as a substitute for pecking the ground, the most common form of cannibalism. Picking at newly emerged blood-filled feathers, particularly on the back near the tails of chicks growing their first set of feathers, may be controlled by applying an anti-picking cream, a diaper rash cream such as Descentin, or pine tar until the feathers grow in. See also blowout, pick out, and vent picking. Cape. The short, narrow feathers between the chicken's shoulders where the neck joins the back and growing underneath the hackle. As a group, these feathers grow in the shape of a cape. Capillariasis, the capillary worm infection. Capillary worm, a hair-like roundworm, a nematode that invades the crop and upper intestine, causing droopiness, weight loss, diarrhea, and sometimes death. When chickens sit around with their heads drawn in, capillary worms are the likely culprits. Capon, a cockerel raised for meat that has been castrated so it will grow larger, plumper, and more tender. Compared to an intact male, a capon rarely crows and has an underdeveloped comb and wattles, longer hackle, saddle, and tail feathers, and a calmer disposition. A capon is not properly finished until at least 20 weeks of age, and because of its excessive weight, it susceptible to weak legs and breast blister. For these reasons, and because hybrid broilers grow out quicker and are therefore cheaper to raise for meat, and because castration is now considered inhumane, capons are not as common as they once were. Caponize. To castrate a rooster. Carbohydrate. Any of a large group of organic compounds occurring in feedstuffs that release energy when broken down through digestion. In most chicken rations, starchy grains such as corn, oats, and wheat are the primary sources of carbohydrates. Carnation comb. A comb that looks like a single comb at the front but thickens toward the back and sprouts random protruding spikes, giving it the appearance of a blossom or crown. This comb style is unique to the Empordanesa and Penedesenca breeds originating in Spain's Catalan region, also called clavel comb, crown comb, king's comb, and king's crest. Here's a picture of a carnation comb. Here's a picture of a rooster and a capon. The rooster has the comb on the top of the head. The capon has a little tiny one. And the capon looks whiter.